during Christmas, some of my family watched Nanette to like see if it sucked or not. Didn't like it, and I decided to already think that without watching that, because you don't have to watch anything except for like the seminal Western works like Keemstar and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I just played video games for several hours. And that's what's up.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the PewDiePie commentary track of Nanette than Nanette itself.
Keemstar interviewing
just shouting the N-word at a lesbian.
Keemstar interviewing Hannah Gadsby. That's what's up.
Gaming with Hannah Gadsby.
So yes, I did comedy for a couple of years, and I actually almost left it because I felt it wasn't going anywhere. But then I got this Netflix special, and everything sort of turned around.
That was Crocodile Dundee playing the Queen there. What was that voice?
Oh my!
So Hannah, you and I both know it's hard to find real ass people in what we do. It's clout shit.
Yes, I thought everyone I knew was quite real, and then when I got Netflix, I would go to parties, and there would just be hoes who would sort of be on my jock.
Yeah, this clout shit.
It's like Patrick Stewart now. I've hoes who would be on my job.
You know what job?
My life as a lesbian in Tasmania has been most troublesome.
You know what job I've been thinking that I want? I want to be the Keemstar, but of British media. Like I cover it like it's YouTube drama for 13-year-olds. But I just wear a stupid fucking flat brim hat, sit at a desk, and I'm like, "What's up? It's UK Media Drama Report." And
you're just reporting on the Gatwick drone 24 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yo, there's fucking drama going down at the New Statesman. People are saying, like, it's just all the feuds between the 350,000 columnists.
Some people at the New Statesman saying there ain't no drone at all.
Yeah, that would be a cool fucking. That's how I'm gonna get to the UK. That's how I'm gonna immigrate to the UK.
That's how we need. That's how we know. That's you get an exceptional talent visa just for reporting on what Giles Corrin has said now about like whether Meghan Markle should slam his nuts in a car door, as we've read in the past, or like his whole thing now where he's saying that he loves all of the negative attention for his like insane sock puppet account from a character from his own book that he slagged off because it means everyone's actually paying attention to him. Otherwise, he'd just be a normal journalist.
That is sort of the difference between like American journalists will like have a disappearance period if they do something like absolutely hilarious like that, or they'll just like do something else like Stephen Glass. But British ones are like, this actually like this. I'm an even better person than I thought I was.
Yeah, they go Toby Young and they like write a book about why people have to be friends with them. Actually,
Toby Young would be on my Keemstar show. Toby Young would be like the FaZe Banks or Lil Xan character on my drama recap show.
I really like the idea of Toby Young to your drama recap show as Eli Lake to Michael Rappaport's show.
Yeah, exactly.
These are all just names to me. It's just words.
Lil Xan is an American rapper who's constantly asleep.
Well, that would happen if you take that many Xans.
Well, he's off Xanax. He's rapping positively about how you shouldn't take Xanax. His name's still
Hope Punk.
Yeah, Lil Xan is Hope Punk.
Lil Xan is the only example of Hope Punk. Everything else, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, nah, that shit's all tired. That shit's all old. The only Hope Punk is Lil Xan, and of course, Steven Pinker.
Listening to Lil Xan and reading Steven Pinker is the greatest act of resistance against Donald Trump that you
Hope
can do.
Punk is just like motivational steampunk. You're wearing like a top hat with bolts on it, and going like, you can succeed.
You know, Lemon Party is Hope Punk. no one thought that those guys could they would never find each other, but then they did, and it's like I'm just looking at Lemon Party as an act of resistance. I do it every day.
Yeah, you're worried about getting scurvy? Lemonparty.com.
That's right, dude.
And those guys from Lemon Party, they actually grew up to start Pod Save America.
Yeah, they have all Benjamin
just
Button.
keep getting younger.
Yeah.
They're all the Johns from Pod Save America finally got their act together and realized that the ultimate Hope Punk wasn't to be a shock site from 2003. It was to resist Trump by doing swears on stage and talking about how Iran shouldn't have nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Maybe the real Lemon Party was the friends we made along the way.
Hello and welcome to the first Trash Future of 2019. We're still recording this, of course, in 2018, so we'll see how we get on.
Will 2019 even happen? We don't know yet, technically speaking.
We don't know for sure. Will Lil Xan go back?
Aztecs could intervene and save us all.
Will Lil Xan go back on Xans? We have no idea.
No, he's not, dude. He's changed.
My thing is that I'm tired.
My name is Riley. You may remember me from every episode of this podcast previously. I'm here in studio with Milo. Hello.
Yo, it's me, your boy. I'm ill. I'm jet lagged, and I think I may have herpes of the face. More on this as it develops.
Alice Caldwell Kelly subbing in for Hussein, who's got a surprise wedding.
Back again. It's Girl Hussein, and I'm also dying. There's something going around. I had like a lobster sub at Quiznos a couple of days ago, and I just feel awful.
Oh no! And stay away from that.
You hate to see it. You absolutely hate to see
it. and joining us for the second time, returning champion Felix Biedserman, who you may remember from his many appearances in the podcast episode 1. Felix, how you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we're ringing in the new year 2019. I have an exciting project I want to announce that's starting in 2019. I've decided to take the, sort of, you guys have given me inspiration. I think I'll be starting my own politics podcast, and I will be calling it Chapo Trap House. And I'll be making it with Twitter personalities William Menaker, Matthew Crispin, Virgil Texas, Amberly Frost, and that's what's up.
Oh, shit.
Would Dan Ninen not agree?
I thought that somebody was starting a podcast, but they were actually trying to start their Samsung Galaxy S7.
Because this shit blowing up.
Dan Ninen interview with Keemstar. We get a lot of haters, Dan.
Come on, Dan Ninen, associate editor for The Telegraph, writing an article about how everyone's hatred for him burns hotter than the Samsung Galaxy S7.
Dan Ninen, Gen Z comedian.
I got into like a brain loop last night of the way that Dan Ninen says Samsung Galaxy S7, because it's just so intoxicating. Samsung Galaxy S7. Like he thinks it's the greatest punchline of all time, so he just really like throws all his weight behind it. It's like stuck in it's perfect. The way he says it is perfect.
I mean, realistically, like he's gonna age out of being a millennial comedian soon. He's gonna have to take up the mantle that 6ix9ine has left, get a bunch of face tattoos, and become a Hope Punk SoundCloud rapper.
Well, you can't age out of being a millennial, other than if you're Dan Ninen, who was born too old to be a millennial. But like, because millennials do keep getting older, rather. You do understand that that's how it works.
For now.
Like,
shut up.
Yeah. One day it's going to be like, damn, all these pensioners taking Xans.
What my thinking with like Dan Ninen was like, okay, what if it's like a Breaking Bad type thing? And people are like, there's no way he's making this much money on comedy. And they're right. He's like the head of Treyway. He's actually the Treyway boss because he's a New Yorker. And he's laundered. Treyway is 6ix9ine's gang. The New York Bloods.
I thought it was Scum Gang. I'm so behind on SoundCloud.
Is it not the gang that you have to like sell more memberships to other people, or
is a multi-level marketing gang? But he's laundering the money that he makes through trafficking drugs and Treyway by just saying like he's doing gigs for Tesla and shit. It's exactly like Breaking Bad.
Is really into nutritious juice that you can make up in your own garage and sell to your friends.
Oh no, here's what it is. He's the producers. That's clearly what's going on. It's a producers.
Right,
it's time for 6ix9ine and Germany.
Awesome. So here's what we're also doing. We've got the TF Hateable Book of the Year this year. Last year, if you don't know, the TF Book Award, it went to Little Wins: The Awesome Power of Thinking Like a Toddler, which is a business book by a guy called Paul Lindley.
Pouring one out for our boy.
Yeah. Where he actually says the way to succeed in business is to grow down and think like a baby. It was really quite a bit. But this year, I've decided to actually do one that's from February. It's an early contender, but it stayed the worst book written this year. And that's right, it is called Enlightenment Now by a certain Steven Pinker, who can only be described as chaotic Gladwell.
One of the few people who, from his name, you can make both the words pink and stink.
Many people are saying, Donald Trump is the new Steven Pinker. Many have said that Donald Trump likes flying on Jeffrey Epstein's plane even more than Steven Pinker. And soon we're going to be making a bunch of graphs that just have no y-axis. And it's really just tremendous to see. More and more.
We love to see Steven Pinker's graphs.
Hybrid Trump Steven Pinker would be such an interesting individual. Like the way in which he would look, okay, I may or may not have had sex with a child on that plane, but what you have to realize is that we did it because it was necessary.
Well, but okay, don't you think that we're going to get into it more, but don't you Steven Pinker is kind of Trump-like. He's sort of Trump, but for the general global status quo. Because they're doing the same thing. He's just taking a bunch of selectively read graphs that don't really account for contextual data or just outright throw out absolute data and are we're doing a terrific job. The unemployment rate for the world's poorest 10% is lower than ever. It's the same shit. It's the exact same shit. Completely.
Yeah, because he'll be in the last one of my favorite, because he's basically a graph warrior, where his whole thing, where he's saying, I'm going to just keep putting graphs in front of you about how the world has gotten better since 1500. And you're going to just have to accept that all political action is futile because actually your life rocks. That's more or less what his perception is. But then he was yeah, it's amazing. Capitalism has brought up the wage of the poorest 4 billion people in the world by upwards of $1. And it's doubled, folks.
Look at this. In 1492, you'd have had to have eaten posset for dinner. Do you want that? No. Now shut up.
Yeah, right, it's I mean, Pinker and guys like Pinker love the elephant graph, where it's oh look, yeah, the
John Hurt.
the world's absolute lowest, the absolute poorest people in the world, their income is quadrupled in X amount of time, and it's yeah, no, that means they earn 25 cents more a day. Wonderful. You absolutely love to see it. Don't don't look at any other data about it.
Don't spend that all at once, fam.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? Pinker will say, look, life is amazing because life expectancy has increased markedly between 1771 and 2015, but he just doesn't address that it's been in decline since 2015. Or it says Black Lives Matter is a bad organization because police killings of black men have gone down since the 70s, but fails to mention that 1 in 3 will spend time in prison, which is considerably up from then. But the thing is, the debunking of all of his terrible stats is not something we're equipped to do because we're all silly people.
I actually have a PhD in statistics. A lot of people don't know that.
I have a PhD in Webistics, the fake company from The Sopranos' second season that Sean Gismonti pumps and dumps.
I have an associate's degree in pre-calc.
I studied advanced placement cryptocurrency pump and dump schemes.
Just pumping it to some cryptocurrency.
I have an MFA in cloud studies.
I've actually
that shit's a cumulonimbus right there.
I got a MacArthur Genius Grant in face tattooing.
That's what's the whole episode now. Is that what we're doing?
Right.
I will have a joke for this as soon as I find another millennial thing. Once we've got past face tattoos,
yes.
Give me a third thing.
Well,
I'll
that's
have a joke
Gen
for
Z.
it.
Okay, great.
All right, cool.
Yes,
Nate, edit that back in. Anyway, there's a very good episode of Citations Needed that really rigorously debunks all of the maths. But I think what I've done is I've gone through this book and I've just found some of the choicest morsels of what Pinker has to say. But first, let's do a little table setting. Just what race is this guy?
Let's get out the TF calipers.
I thought that somebody was redistributing wealth from the global middle class to the poorest 10% of the world, but they were actually charging a Gulfstream G6 plane en route to a lawless island in the Caribbean owned by a billionaire. A Gulfstream G6.
My father was Malcolm Gladwell, and my mother was an idiot, so I have my PhD in cognitive psychology from Harvard.
Jeffrey Epstein has purchased Dr. No's volcano lair, but when it opens up, there's just a load of kids in there.
Oh, boy. There's kids.
James Bond shows up and he's like, well, this is much less perilous to the fate of the Earth, but it's like a lot more fucked up than I was expecting.
No, you can't. James Bond is like, that is not your job. That is Parliament's job.
James Bond is like, technically it's legal. He's not breaking the Geneva Convention.
Oh, boy. So Steven Pinker shows up on roundups of the intellectual dark web thinkers that now is basically everyone from, Sargon of Akkad to Ricky Gervais, whose ideas are too true and dangerous for the mainstream to accept.
Sargon of Gervais.
And what makes him different from like Richard Spencer is that Pinker's main point on this kind of shit is like IQ differences between races might be real, but it doesn't mean you should be individually racist, which is conflated with rudeness, basically. Like that's more like all of his ideas are really fucking boring. It's just what he does is he is like just strapped a feeding tube of graphs into your nostrils, more or less.
Yeah. That's why Trump is bad, because Trump doesn't realize that doing racism properly is like instituting institutionally racist policies rather than like calling people wops on Twitter.
And I actually, in preparation for this, I listened to the episode of Jordan Peterson's podcast with Steven Pinker on it, which was very.
Has your brain expanded?
I got so
Riley's
smart.
skull is cracking.
I tried to download that, but I actually have to update my NVIDIA card. They said like couldn't handle the IQ. I was like, that's weird.
You had to trepan yourself to download it.
You need 1 terabyte of RAM to process this podcast. Damn. Shit, smart as fuck.
I need quantum computing to process this IQ.
And that's why only Riley Reid can listen to it.
That's right.
Yeah. That's why only Riley Reid can listen to the podcast that I'm going to start, Riley to Riley, where I individually reach out to Riley Reid.
Thank you for explaining that joke that I only just realized we made off the podcast.
Exactly. No, the people deserve to know about my new project. This is my soft pilot for Riley to Riley.
Yeah, it's going to be the new Chapo Trap House, guys. Once that gets started.
Like, no, stop downloading the Patreon. I need Riley to listen to it.
You think it slows down Patreon's bandwidth? That's the best part. If other people subscribe to it.
So here's this example of the way that like Pinker thinks. Peterson says, well, obviously solar power actually has killed a lot more people than nuclear power. Pinker's response is...
through sunburn and melanoma.
Almost. Pinker's response is, well, obviously it's because solar panel installers can fall off the roof.
IQ stat is maxed out. Continue. YN.
Amazing.
All of society to Steven Pinker is just Laurel and Hardy movies. Like there's like everyone's being like I was just fitting this solar panel and I was crushed to death by a piano that fell out of the sky.
It's fucked up that when you put in solar power, you have to have one extremely fat man and one skinny one move a chandelier very carefully.
Oh, it's a nightmare. And all the surfaces have to be greased. No one knows why.
Also, it absolutely rules that no nuclear plant has ever been constructed. They all just occur naturally.
Well, if you look at it, those like nuclear cooling towers are curved. So if people fall, they just roll off. It's like a half pipe.
Yeah, like
it's a dope site. That's why they have the X Games near nuclear power plants.
Yeah, I love getting my power from the American Ninja Warrior course.
Absolutely.
That is, oh my god, Harvard is so cool. It's just because it's just like guys who think like that, like just have a complete fucking bird brain thing where it's like, actually, if you think about it, like universal health care is bad because then like there's no decentivizing people from doing amateur jackass or backyards wrestling.
Honestly,
and people are like, wow, you really went around the idea. Good work.
Imagine how extreme Bam Margera would have gotten if he'd have had universal health care. I mean, I'm Bam Margera and this is shooting myself in the head in front of my parents.
It's just like completely just taking the most obtuse, weird. It's like you can try to outthink yourself so much that you just basically are a Facebook guy, but with more words. It's the same. Like, damn, they say that shit's safe, but what if a solar panel fell on somebody? That'd be fucked up. Damn, you're right, dude.
What even is his like? I know he's an academic, but what is his field? Like, obviously not anything to do with engineering, right? Like he's.
Oh.
Is he?
Well, that's every time I've seen Steven Pinker referenced, you know, there are like all the suck up articles that are like, you know, genius Steven Pinker says to Black Lives Matter movement. Think about what it's like to be white, you know. Wow. They just refer to him as like Harvard thinker, and I think his job is just to walk around Harvard and go
get a degree in just in thinking is.
Yeah, exactly. His job is that he's paid to just like go to Davos and be
awesome.
like, do this shit.
He actually is paid to go to Davos and say, what if political correctness has gone too far? Like, he's paid to go to Davos and just like read YouTube comments and Reddit threads, but to dress it up in academic language, more or less.
Well, Black Lives Matter actually kills black men, because when black men don't get arrested, then they return to their jobs as solar panel fitters.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he does. I should have looked this up before, but
he's a cognitive psychologist.
Yeah,
what the fuck even is that though? Like, I know what a psychologist does. What subset of that is cognitive psychology? Is it just
it's like imagine if you took all the Freud, like all of the kind of attempts to have like insight into the human condition out of psychology, and instead tried to make it about like a combination of race science and poorly thought out experiments.
Awesome.
It's like just doing the Milgram experiment over and over again.
Yeah,
the two genders of psychology. There's either fuck your mum psychology or like caliper psychology.
Yeah.
So he's a caliper guy.
Cog psych is like, I guess it's like one level above Evo psych, which is just everyone with an Evo psych PhD has been on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yo, I got a PhD in Mitsubishi Evo, yo. That shit's got a dope spoiler.
They're coming back, dude.
So I'm cracking into this. I've got a little bit of pre-talk, which is pre-talk. Nate, I'm going to take that again. I've got a little bit of article. Like
pre-talk leaking out of my dick.
Shut up. Okay, fine, Nate, keep it in. So this is from an interview where he's like, core idea is that the world is getting better, and so don't complain about it, right? So he's asked by the interviewer, what first gave you the idea that the world was getting better? And he says, I just stumbled across data showing that violence had declined over the course of history. The homicide rate in England was 50 times higher in the 14th century than it is today. Awesome. Thank you.
The 14th century was just people continuously coming home and finding their wife banging the surf from across the village.
Oh, yeah, people were getting killed constantly for for a ton of dumb reasons then, but that's why we can't question like the economic paradigm that came up in the 1970s. Milton Friedman is right, because we don't burn witches anymore.
Yeah, it's weird that they view like history as as the continuous like run of human progress, and yet they also assume that progress has now stopped. Which is like, it's like, how can it be like, because they don't acknowledge that like things have historically gotten a lot worse at various periods. Like the Roman Empire ends and then shit gets real fucked up for like a really long time, and then stuff gradually gets better again. Like they've never actually thought or read anything.
They just believe in the continuity of the Roman Empire through like Moscow as Third Rome or the Holy Roman Empire. But he's then asked, so go ahead.
It's Pinker's like general thing is very late 90s, like
Fukuyama.
You know. Yeah, well, it's the end of history. I mean, I know all of you on this podcast are 15 years.
Film Space Jam, and he's like, it doesn't get better than this.
all of you on this podcast, and all of you listen, the oldest among you are 15 years old. So you literally weren't alive during this time. You know, but me, as a 17-year-old Twitch streamer who was frozen for many years after he was born, so I still get to be 17. I was still born in 1990.
You're living real-life idiocracy.
That's right. That's right. I have the biggest brain of all time now. Very, very humbled. But it was a very 90s thing to be like, well, America balanced the budget deficit. Pretty much all the major problems are done. I think we're going to take care of racism before this decade's over. And it was just the same sort of like Pinker bird brain horseshit. And it was the rise of Bono as an international citizen of the world who would eliminate poverty by making a special type of iPod. That was in the 2000s, but it was an extension of magical 90s center left thinking.
We're gonna kill racism with tax credits for basically.
Yeah,
and
it was like the 90s. The 90s were an exciting and absolutely idiotic time because, of course, there was a high index of human misery. A lot of it actually in the West, where we had said that we had solved all our problems, but there was sort of a rush job to be like, well, Cold War's done, the budget is balanced. I think, now we take on the existential problems, and then by 2002 we're gonna live forever. Let's do it, guys.
Yeah.
And then then 9/11 happened, but Pinker, God bless him, he's such a holdover from this time. Pinker actually is like a public figure from this time, because public intellectuals after 9/11, they would all just be like very dour university
guys.
Yeah, guys who thought they lived in Lord of the Rings and were fighting an existential battle of good and evil because they wrote blog posts about how we should go to war. But there weren't as many guys like Pinker, and the fact that we're seeing him back, I guess it shows, Obama, he really was for 90s kids, because Steven Pinker could be the most 90s public figure we have.
Oh, absolutely. If he'd been born a couple years earlier, he would have, or not even born a couple years earlier, but if timing had been different, that he would have been in the Obama White House as the senior optimism strategist or whatever.
Welcome back to Keenan Kell and Steven Pinker.
So Steven Pinker's interviewer says, okay, so what's behind all the good news? And here's what Steven says. The most overarching explanation would be that the European Enlightenment worked. The idea that if we being humanity, set ourselves the goal of improving well-being, and if we try to figure out how the world works using reason and science, every once in a while we can succeed.
Hell yeah.
Dude,
I love using logic to figure
everyone
out how the world
feels
works.
like they're living in a Victorian painting showing the destruction of a biblical city. Like, you can see the storm clouds coming over the horizon. Nobody thinks this. Who thinks this?
Well, it's also the other thing I love about the who thinks this question is he's like, does he think that we invented just using A-B reasoning or means ends thinking
we
in
invented
the
being
1700s?
smart. We invented being smart, and we're doing being smart to racism and climate change and whatever else, and we're going to fix it. It's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one was thinking before. That was the problem.
it's like
They were just guessing.
Yeah, you just
in the
murdering
1600s.
wallards for doing Christianity wrong. Yeah.
Dude, those Romans were wild. They'd just be like, hey, should we use logic to solve this problem? Nah, let's just look at this goat intestine.
In the 1600s, everyone was just a complete moron who was just like, oh, damn, I can't kill enough witches to make the crops grow.
I really wish I could get the things that I say, the sounds that come out of my mouth, and put them in my head before people could hear them. That's
oh my God, I'm just imagining a business motivation guy, but from the 1600s, who's like, hey, you know what? I get up at 4 a.m. and that's how I murder 60 witches a day and also read 800 pamphlets a day.
This is like a subgenus of Pinker guys are guys who they through Evo Psych and Cog Psych are like, all right, I have figured out the exact period in human history where cognitive thought began. Where there was actual personalization, and they write a 950-page book called Generals of the Mind: How the West Invented Thinking, and then Barack Obama is like, this is the best book I've read of 2018.
That's Stephen.
So that's actually not far wrong, Felix, because there is a prominent sort of liberal establishment thinker who does think that. So Bill Gates on his website writes that Enlightenment Now opens with an argument in favor of returning to the ideals of the Enlightenment, an era where reason, science, and humanism were touted as the highest ideals, and then in parentheses, Gates notes insiders can get a preview of this section of the book.
Oh damn! I love being on the Mind Generals pre-order. I love lining up around the GameStop to pick it up, making the soy face when I get it.
Dude, is Bill Gates' Patreon doing okay? I mean, I worry for him.
I love getting Bill Gates' nudes on Patreon.
Bill Gates lost all his money on crypto.
Bill Gates.
The world is getting better, even if it doesn't feel that way all the time. I'm glad we have brilliant thinkers like Steven Pinker to help us see the big picture. Enlightenment Now is my new favorite book of all time.
Wow.
All
How
time,
many books has
Bill?
Bill Gates read?
Bill!
The greatest book of all time?
Dude, the best book of all time is just graphs. It's the ultimate STEM opinion.
But it's like but there have to be books that are like as asinine in this as this and have made the same points that Pinker generally makes that are like better written or what the fuck?
No, Bill Gates could totally equally say something like, look, I like a world where community is presented as the highest order. Therefore, the Richard Scarry Busy Town books should be read by every world leader.
But Busy Town
They
are
were actually-
literally better books in every criteria that you judge
Leading
books.
Enlightenment figure Richard Scarry. That's why there are all those bits in the Busy Town books where like there's all like people doing the slave trade, but it's presented in this like smiley for kids way.
I'm getting all my moral
absolutely.
worldview from Animorphs.
It would be cool. It would be cool to like post pictures of you like of Busy Town, like you're reading, oh, I just revealed myself. I don't know any books that people actually read. Fuck. One of those books that like the fucking book people on Twitter read. Like the wife's letter.
Books such as
I
My
don't
Side
know.
by David Beckham.
Yeah, exactly. The Keemstar autobiography.
Ian Jordan by Katie Price.
Yeah, the Eric Trump authorized biography. And they just posted and they're like, this, and it's just like a worm driving a bus. I'm getting back into Richard Scarry this year. I don't think I'm ready. I went through a tough breakup, and I think I'm ready to reread Busy Town.
I reread the Richard Scarry books every year, and you know what? I get something different from them every time.
It should be like to have hour-long discussions about Richard Scarry in an adult dinner party. So cool. You have like passive aggressive arguments in the car with your wife. I think I already know what subtext is, but yeah, thank you for explaining, the bear who owns the hat shop to me.
Oh, and don't think I didn't know what you were talking about when you suggested that Mr. Messy refers to the disorganized soul. I know that was directed at me, Helen.
Yeah. Sure, you think the worm represents late capitalist malaise, but how would he even know about that? It's a worm.
Read the book that Shinzo Abe, Barack Obama, and Bill Gates are reading, Busy Town.
All right, so let's crack open the cardboard pages of Steven Pinker's Busy Town and let's see what he's getting busy with.
I just thought of like a hype beast Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Anyway.
Oh, good.
Fine, good. Glad we got that out
All
of the
right.
way.
So, Steve, basically what I've done is I've picked some passages from this book I'm going to read and we're going to go through it. It's not actually in order because the order in which he writes it is basically, here's what the Enlightenment is. It's when we invented being smart. Look at all these graphs. I'm worried about free speech on campus. That's how it's organized. The arguments are asinine and we've heard them before a zillion times. So we're going to focus more on like the little bits of what he says. So on his own philosophy, we don't have a catchy name for a constructive agenda that reconciles long-term gains with short-term setbacks, historical currents, and human agency.
It's called the 5-2 diet.
Kevin Kelly offers Protopia, the pro from progress and process, and Topia from utopia. Others have suggested
Mono means one, and real means real.
Others have suggested pessimistic hopefulness, optorealism, and radical incrementalism.
Radical incrementalism.
Wow.
My favorite
Holy
comes
fucking shit.
Someone
comes
is
from
using
Hans Rosling.
all 300 of his IQ points right now.
All of these are new
Would have to
centrist
be-
parties.
Radical incrementalism is talking someone into anal sex.
I've got the best one coming up. My favorite is a serious possibilist.
Wow.
Oh, I'm lyrical.
Yeah. Whoa.
Steven Pinker backpack rapper. That's what he is.
Serious possibilist, Steven Pinker.
Oh my god, these are.
Yeah.
I'm
After a while,
I'm
they start saying, like,
exhausted.
Metal Gear Solid, villains like Cog Psych and like serious possibilist.
You have to take out the controller.
Steven Pinker talking to Jeffrey Epstein. You're even worse than me.
No, it's you. In order to beat Optorealist in Metal Gear, you have to unplug the controller and plug it back in the second port.
Whoa.
This is just so exhausting. It's
Absolutely.
like this is because it's like he just outworks you. Like the pace that he keeps up is you can't match it because he has this level of enthusiasm for complete horseshit that I don't think anyone on earth has the energy to like refute as it goes. He has this.
How are you going to argue against optorealism?
Yeah,
because that's what that's actually what I was feeling when I was reading this book and trying to grab stuff, which is that you can't grab onto it anywhere. He never like makes a clear claim that isn't just a spurious statistical claim. It's always just this vague, like, well, actually, you shouldn't worry. Here's a graph, and it's like I can't get into it. It's like trying to claw smoke.
It's like he took the limitless pill, but it just sort of like makes you dumber, but you can work faster. You just do shoddier work at a pace that is too great for anyone to keep up with.
He was given a placebo of the limitless pill, and now he thinks he's really smart.
Exactly what it is.
Damn, I'm a god at this brain shit. Very cool, Steven.
He thinks he knows Mandarin Chinese, and he's just making noises that he learned from the menu. Like
That's Giles Corran.
He walks out. He thinks that speaking Mandarin Chinese is just saying hello, 152, 153, 76.
he's like going chow mein chop suey. Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually, if you look at it, it's a very mathematical language. You just say the number of what you want, and it is presented in front of you. And I actually think that is something we could learn from.
That's why the Chinese are so good at math.
Let's have this graph of how much Chinese you speak.
as you see,
It's quadrupled.
As you see in the last 2 weeks, Steven Pinker has spoken more Chinese than the rest of the 90% of the graph, which is every Chinese person.
As Chinese is actually a STEM subject. Who knew?
Very cool, Steven.
Okay, so here's and on reason, which he thinks and this is what he thinks he's arguing for. This is what he thinks about reason. And this is who he thinks he's arguing against. There's the postmodern credo that reason itself is a pretext to assert power. But this position has a fatal flaw. It refutes itself. As soon as critics of reason and science open their mouths to begin their defense, they've lost the argument because they have in that very act tacitly committed to persuasion. That is, adducing reasons for what they are about to argue.
Well, there's a lot going on here, as we say. But I like that. Can we just go with the implicit premise that like Steven Pinker is like he's constantly arguing with people who are like, dude, that fact shit, I'm done with it. No, there's no A follows B. Reason, there's no reason for anything. Reasons suck, dude. You're a pussy.
He talks to socialists, but only the dumb guy socialism.
But it's not even so. It's just like someone who's
been on this podcast.
Someone who this is like Stefan Molyneux shit. This is like. People will say that they're against the idea of things being true. But when they say that things are true, they're false. They are committing to the idea that truth is real. But it's like, who the fuck are you arguing with?
Yeah.
What do you mean against reason? What the fuck are you talking about?
Some people are in favor of the credo that reason is bad, but I'm in favor of another credo, one I've adopted from the brave men and women of the United States military.
It's like this is equivalent. This is, again, like Steven Pinker is, you think so hard you become a Facebook guy. This is like, you know, when people say pedophilia is good and we should murder pit bulls, it's like, wait, who? Who the fuck are you arguing with?
It's like, this is the same way of being like, he imagines that someone has said to him, actually, facts are racist. And his response is, actually, facts don't have a brain themselves and so cannot hold racist opinions. Try again.
Really? Facts are racist? Well, a lot of them are Chinese. Absolutely destroyed.
Who would think that because China like sort of developed an administrative like educational system that they had more facts than the rest of the world for a while?
That's the next
we
Steven.
can't allow a fact gap.
That's the next. Yeah, that's the next Steven Pinker book. The fact deficit. It would be so easy to become one of these guys. Why the fuck don't all of us do it? It's so easy.
Chinese facts. My new book.
Yeah. No more Pinocchios. The invention of facts and the rise of truth in the West. Awesome.
Oh god.
This is
It's a plausible title.
Riley, you said this back in the beginning about him being like Malcolm Gladwell, but like lawful Gladwell, and I'm intrigued by the idea of like Malcolm Gladwell true facts being like an alignment like that.
Oh no! In the DMs, we've been talking about this all day. Like Jordan Peterson is evil Gladwell, Steven Pinker is lawful Gladwell, and then
Malcolm Gladwell is
who's
true
chaotic-
Gladwell, of course.
Malcolm Gladwell is true Gladwell.
Lawful neutral Gladwell.
Then what is it? I think Joe Rogan is chaotic Gladwell.
Oh, I was gonna say Joe Rogan is Dungeon Master. Because it's all a simulation that he's experiencing. Like Joe Rogan is rolling all of our lives and we don't even know it.
Oh my god. How different would Joe Rogan's life have been if he'd been like 20 years older and he'd have had to have done the Joe Rogan experience in the 90s? Like he's just on like E-Baum's world being like, hey, download this MP3 of me talking about DMT on LimeWire.
It's just a flash game.
Okay. I would love to do a D&D adventure with Steven Pinker where you just have to have facts that are like +4 to smithing or whatever. That'd be great. Okay, so on wealth, here's what Steven has to say about wealth. Among the brainchildren of the Enlightenment is the realization that wealth is created, and it is created primarily by knowledge and competition. Networks of people arrange physical matter into improbable but useful configurations that combine the fruits of their ingenuity and labor.
Dude, I love
By
to
networks of
arrange
people, does he
matter.
mean slaves?
So wait, is he saying that the Enlightenment, the concept of economic growth didn't exist before? It's like, yeah,
No, it didn't.
after, they invented the wheel and then they invented the set amount of money in the world. And
Yeah.
then,
Until
Francis
1750.
Bacon came along and said, yo, let's just make some more money. Let's wet this bread, boys.
That shit.
Let's wet this money
It's on
for
paper,
centuries.
motherfucker.
This is
until
so
1750.
stupid. This is so fucking
Sorry.
stupid.
Here's the ultimate.
I always like, I have like a few family members that believe this type of thing, and I generally like avoid arguing with them because it's like, well, if someone's like 60 and believes this, it's sort of like a function of their age, right? They have to believe that the world that they're leaving with the beliefs that they've practiced, like it's actually fine. Everything's okay. There's just a few problems you have to fix. And generally someone can like believe these things and still be like a good person. They often are just like good people who wish the world was a better place and have tricked themselves into believing it through like just absolute nonsense like this. And I always like, and I also don't like want to argue it because I've like never read any of this crap, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I could even refute it. I don't like know that many things outside of Keemstar podcast appearances, but actually like hearing it for the first time, I'm like, this is moronic. Like this is so shoddily constructed.
You just refuse it with the Keemstar thing. So you'd be like, among the brainchildren of the Enlightenment is the realization that clout is created.
Yeah, there was a set amount of clout during the Iron Age.
Yeah.
Well, we asked the
It's in a
question.
hunter-gatherer gaming society.
We asked the question, right? Like, who is this book for? And Felix, I think you kind of hit on who this book is for. It's for people who are feeling kind of uncomfortable about the world, who are probably just okay, but who don't consider themselves political and want to be reassured that things are more or less fine. Like it's a book with no forward project. It's just patting people on the back who want to keep considering themselves apolitical.
Oh yeah, it's just people who have like 20 to 30 years left, and they've benefited immeasurably from the course of the world from the time they were born till now. And they're a smart enough person to see that the world around them is very painful for a great many number of people, but not like enough to be like, all right, well, the status quo is we're headed towards ecological
Grandparents sadly lamenting that you can't molest a kid on a plane anymore.
They see like, yeah, we're heading towards like existential ecological disaster, but they have to. It's too late for them to change their mind. It's been too good for them and their family, and they're just like, Actually, you love it. Actually, it's great. This guy Steven Pinker says, well, 300 years ago we invented thinking. Imagine what we can do if we keep going on the same course. We were going to invent thinking too.
Well, actually, it's funny you say it. I'll jump to this other passage where he says what he's setting out to do is explain what he calls the optimism gap. He says, when it comes to happiness, most Americans are underachievers. Anxiety and depressive symptoms have increased in the post-war decades in many people, and none of us are happy as we ought to be given how amazing our world has become.
That's literally Joel Osteen shit.
Yeah, it's the prosperity gospel for liberals who are atheists. It's a new atheist prosperity gospel.
This is the same thing, every sort of fucking huckster American Protestant megalomaniac super minister has something like this, where it's like it's a Facebook thing again. Like, oh, you're complaining? Guess what? There are people in Africa dying right now. So, but except for in Pinker's
solar panels on slippery roofs.
but I guess in Pinker's case, it's like, oh, you feel bad? Well, people in Africa have quadrupled their income. How about that, dude?
I want to switch the red state.
Both those people are assholes.
I want to switch the red state and blue state
say
for
that.
this, and just have red state small business tyrants who own a muffler shop empire or something, being like, well, the global rate of happiness has increased.
It's like a worldly evangelical thing. There are different types of evangelicals in America, and you just have the loathsome guys who have the minister who has frosted tips, who are just Jesus Christ was
Guy
exactly.
Fieri is an evangelical.
Yeah, the guys who are like, Jesus Christ was the Roy Moore of his time. Actually, if you look at it, and then you have. This is more the Rick Warren type, where it's like living gratitude, realizing that God has favored us to be. It's like Hillsong, Rick Warren, that type of genius, the more cosmopolitan evangelical who realizes that they have to, through their business or their geographical location, have to traffic with more liberals in the world, so they take a more conciliatory approach to things. Yeah. And functionally, it's identical to this garbage. It's absolutely identical.
Well, the way I see it is it's like Steven Pinker's 14 words, or we must secure the happiness of our people and a future for our dopey children.
But it's not. That's what's amazing about it is there is this implicit thing in Pinker and guys like Pinker where it reminds me. Okay, so there was this article I saw in the greatest, one of the people at the forefront of thinking too, Vox. Where it was like the worst thing about if America doesn't do TPP is it will be a wealth transfer away from the world's poorest people, where you refuse to take an absolute numeric or contextual income look at the incomes of the poorest people in the world and go, well, technically they'll make 30 cents more, so that triples their income and blah blah blah. And the undergirding thing about that is they were saying we're going to be sacrificing their income for the income of middle class people. And generally I hate the over focus of middle class in Western politics. It's just you say that because you can't talk about poor people because they deserve their predicament, whereas middle class people are just they're trying their best and maybe their kids will invent the Fitbit. But there is this thing in the elephant graph, in Pinker's overall thing, in this sort of global free trade gospel, there is this thing where it's like, well, the only people it hasn't gotten better for are the middle class, and let's be honest, they're okay. And again, obviously less important than the most economically precarious people. But what makes it so irritating is that Pinker is also implying and just outright saying the people at the highest end of the graph, the richest people, they deserve it because they invented Fitbit.
He actually has a passage on why billionaires are good and deserve their wealth, which I've captured, which I think sort of dovetails in with this nicely.
It slipped into your
So
Pokeball.
he says, among the world's billionaires is J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter novels, which have sold more than 400 million copies and have been adapted into a series of films by a similar number of people, seen by a similar number of people. Suppose that 1 billion people have handed over $10 each for the pleasure of a Harry Potter paperback or movie ticket, with just 1/10 of the proceeds going to Rowling. She has become a billionaire, increasing inequality, but she's made people better off, not worse off. This doesn't mean that Rowling's wealth is just deserts for her effort or skill, or reward for the literacy and happiness she added to the world. Her wealth just arose as a byproduct of voluntary decisions of billions of book buyers and moviegoers. And that's how he sees billionaires.
No.
What does she do?
Also,
what does she
she's
do
not
with
a
that money?
billionaire.
She makes terrible tweets.
I'm going to grab a cup of coffee. That really hurt me.
Those tweets are very expensive, Alice.
Well, it's like,
millions of man hours to produce.
and so, but yeah, he's like, look, there's just, we don't know what causes billionaires. Hey, just billionaires just happen. They're cool. They're fine.
They're like black holes. No one knows how they arise, but they have this gravitational pull that sucks everything
And
in.
it's like, and at no point does he think, like, he's like, oh, it's cool. Like these richest 1% of people in human history have sort of managed to make all this money, whatever. But he doesn't see the other side of it, which is that try making a movie that isn't Harry Potter. You know, or like try seeing a movie that isn't Harry Potter, right?
I've just had a thought, and
Right,
that's
so
between her and Elon Musk is the end game of capitalism, where you win, and the final end stage is just posting forever. That's your punishment, is you just have to tweet.
Yeah.
We've all short-circuited it. Just start doing that now.
As much as I want to talk about how J.K. Rowling is one of the worst posters in the world, do you guys know Gregory Mankiw?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a passing familiarity.
Yeah.
The
economics professor
awful American economist who basically poisoned the brains of millions of my generation, the previous generation, by writing macro and micro textbooks for American colleges that are actually, like any regulation and taxes, if you look at this graph that excludes all of other external factors, they make the y-axis sad. Rent control is bad. Look, it's making the y-axis sad. You don't want to make the y-axis sad, huh?
Yeah.
And
You got to give the y-axis Viagra.
and Mankiw is like anyone with just a passing understanding can read his awful textbooks and realize that they're just wretched propaganda. But he at least tries harder than this. This is offensively stupid. The thing where it's it increases inequality, but people were happy when they read Harry Potter. Even Mankiw would go for something where it's yes, but the economic activity from buying the book increases the GDP and blah blah blah, or perhaps there's a trade-off between leisure hours and blah. He will try some sort of economic justification for inequality, whereas this is just turns out the magic was reading all along. So there's no more magic inequality.
This is more Facebook. This is, you're just jealous of Rowling. You didn't work as hard as Rowling. You're just jealous. Why are you complaining?
He's not even fucking trying. He's not even trying. I could literally do this job and do a better job and come up with more actual better fake statistic numbers juking than this. He just fucking gave up a third of the way through and was yeah, I'm gonna eat regardless. That's what this book is. That's what this is. This is the guy on Facebook where they're you stole copper wiring from my house. You called the police on me after you stole from me. Well, you can say what you want, but I'm gonna eat regardless. Okay.
And he's not even doing proper Steven Pinker, because he's willfully ignoring the fact that some of those Harry Potter books are very big and heavy and inevitably will have fallen from shelves, cussing and possibly killing and maiming small children.
Well, think about the Kindle though, and then you realize that Jeff Bezos has saved more lives than all the doctors in human history combined. People who have not been crushed by bookshelves.
But Kindle
and actually,
people,
dude, here's the Steven Pinker take. People get mad at Jeff Bezos for promoting inequality, but if you think about it, the Kindle has replaced bookshelves, and now secret societies can no longer use fake bookshelves to hide their meetings, and they have to do it out in the open, and the world is more transparent. So Jeff Bezos is also the greatest transparency activist of all time.
Well,
you go around to George Soros' house and you're like, hey, George, why do you have a giant Amazon Kindle set into your wall over there? He's no reason, don't touch it.
Well, that's the thing. That's the other thing he's doing, is he's doing a kind of switch here, where it's like, yeah, there is J.K. Rowling, who, as you know, as objectionable as she is, sort of has it. Her relationship to directly making people poorer is more is less sort of close than a billionaire like Jeff Bezos, who is a billionaire because what he's done is he's stripped out and casualized and eliminated millions and millions of jobs and put people on poverty wages. His being a billionaire actually does make people's lives worse. And he's just kind of glossing over that in a really obvious low effort way that does insult the intelligence of anyone reading this book.
Jeffrey kisses.
Very fun.
It just,
anyway,
that is the thing about this. That is, it just, the lack of effort is stunning.
Oh.
I'm reading the first book I've read in literally 5 years. Now Scarred's My Struggle. And you know, this is the book. This is the book that like Obama and fucking Bill Gates should read, because at least now Scarred is trying so hard. Like, he's working his ass off to remember like a weird argument he had with his brother when he was 7. And Stephen,
he had graphs.
And it's like it's because, and now Scarred's presentation is like, well, this is what happened in my life, and he's just working his ass off. And then you have this, which is just this pompous fucking asshole with like a psychedelic illustration of Einstein's hair. He has that thing. He has that thinker hair. That hair where it's like, damn, I can't even comb my hair. The ideas make it blow up. I got ideas blow out. My IQ is too high to straighten it.
Genius hairstyle.
I can't cut my hair because I actually my head ran out of space to put all my synapses, and they're in my hair now. I have the IQ haircut, and he's like, all right, guys, I've solved all the problems of the world, and it's just this shit. He doesn't even give a shit. He's so fucking lazy. He's just not a good worker. Steven.
Felix, I'm about to kill you with this next one, because this is low effort. If you want to hear low effort, this is low effort. This is Pinker on the environment and climate change. One response to the prospect of climate change is to deny that it is occurring or that human activity is the cause. It is completely appropriate, of course, to challenge the hypothesis of human-generated climate change on scientific grounds. The great virtue of science is that a true hypothesis will, in the long run, withstand attempts to falsify it. And human-generated climate change is the most vigorously challenged scientific hypothesis in history. So by now, all the major challenges have been refuted, and even the many skeptics have been convinced.
Cool.
But literally all the the skeptics are in charge of the EPA, you fucking jack off. Like, what? It's like, this is what you had when you're just like, this is like the perfect Pinker thing where you willfully like ignore power and capital. Is just, you're just like, everything is just an ideas battle, and this idea is winning because more people believe X. And it's like, well, that doesn't really fucking matter that much if like literally all the power behind capital and government is skeptical or just doesn't care. Oh my God, he's
like, all Shell had to do was play for time. They just had to play for time so that they could get it over the line, so they could like lobby for the tax bill to be passed, so all that shit could happen. And now they're like, okay, well, it doesn't matter anymore, so we don't have to keep arguing. And Pinker's like, once again, the method of Voltaire wins the day.
Yeah.
It's just so fucking
The
awful.
irony is that, like, this is the book that would convince Trump that climate change is bad. Like, he would read this, he'd be like, oh my God.
He wouldn't read.
I've been
He'd have it
told,
summarized.
someone read to me from this book, this amazing ancient text about this thing called climate bad, okay? It's when the climate gets very bad. We're going to do something about it. I've got Jared looking into it.
The climate is some of the most erratic we've ever seen it in terms of weather. And you know, in my life, in your lives, we've seen we call it a double spring. You know, when you get a little bit of spring in the winter, and you go, hey, I didn't ask for this, and you know, we like to love it. We like to go around December and go a little fog, a little 60-degree day. Hey, it's very nice. You can go for a nice drive around the park. We love to drive around the park on a December day, but it's so foggy. It's so foggy you can't see anything. And they put up these wonderful decorations, but you can't see it because of the climate fog. We don't like seeing the climate fog. We don't like seeing him. And we go, okay, you go away now till spring. But it's double spring. And the other thing is, Jennifer Lawrence, Sheldon Finkelstein from Vanity Fair can write what he wants about her. And first of all, his Christmas party, Vanity Fair, has been a disaster, and you got to wonder why. And Jennifer Lawrence, actually a very nasty person, actually. Very mean woman. Very mean woman. And Steven Pinker is just sitting at the other end doing the high IQ leg cross, and he's like, absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely. Yes, there is a double spring. Things have been getting more erratic. It's like yes, more erratic than Lisa Rinna when I was trying to see her a couple of times in the early 1990s. It was on a friend of mine's boat actually, and there were the waves were quite choppy that morning. However, let me tell you, things didn't go choppily with her. Anyway, thank you very much to the Boy Scouts of America.
My friend Steven Pinker, he's completely right, and the world is getting better. And if we remember in the 80s, Jamie Gertz wanted me very, 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 very badly, and I just we could have done that. We could have just had a tremendous time together. But at this juncture in time, many have said that me and Kate Upton could be an item.
Yeah.
And that is
when a great American in 1750 invented the light bulb, that man was Thomas Edison. Okay, when that man invented the light bulb, Jennifer Lawrence didn't exist.
But it is like all he's saying is like Trump shit, because like if you ask Trump to like talk about inequality, he'd be like, and my great friends, they've done amazing deals for people. And so really, who's an equal here? They made a lot of money. They've made so much money. They've made so much, but they made so many people's lives better. It's the same argument. It's exactly the same. Oh my god!
They say it's harder to date now, but private plane travel has actually improved across the country.
It's just like Trump literally puts more thought into like talking about why the tax bill is good than Steven Pinker.
If you guys want to hear some thought, I've got Steven Pinker's 2 solutions to climate change right now.
Let's go.
Let's go. A fleet of airplanes could spray a fine mist of sulfates, calcite, or nanoparticles into the stratosphere, spreading a thin veil that will reflect back just enough sunlight to prevent dangerous levels of warming.
He's trying to put the Earth in a niqab. He's Islamizing the Earth.
This is like if you. This is a fucking ether poisoned scientist from 1900. This is his idea.
A fleet of private airplanes going to the islands and the...
spraying whatever liquids inside.
Steven Pinker. I've actually seen an amazing French science fiction movie, and I think if we make contact with the big face on the moon and avoid hitting him in the eye with a rocket this time, we can seek his help on climate change.
If you all want to hear about some 1900s shit, some 19th century shit rather, here's his second idea. Or a fleet of cloud ships could spray a fine mist of seawater into the air.
No, he did not say that. He did not say that in his fucking. He did not say that in his fucking high IQ book. A cloud ship
suggests something from Final Fantasy.
What the?
He wants to make like a paedophilia Hindenburg that's stopping climate change. Look, the thing is, kids are the only thing that reflect sunlight, but only once they've been fucked. Okay?
Only Jeffrey Epstein can save us from climate change.
Did he like write this on Ambien? Did he fucking? This is like a This is the most low effort. Actually, this is the most effort he's put in. Just this fucking bird brain, like World's Fair guy opinions about how you fix existential problems. This is the dumbest fucking bullshit I've ever heard. If you literally pulled somebody out of you took everyone in America who saw Venom in theaters twice and asked them how to fix climate change, they would have better ideas than this. Let's spray seawater with cloud ships. Damn, thanks, Steven.
Thanks, Stephen.
I've been reading this great thinker, Lando Calrissian. You might have heard of him.
These measures, Pinker goes on, are relatively inexpensive, require no new exotic technologies, and could bring global temperatures down quickly. Awesome.
How do you know, Stephen? You have never indicated any expertise about climate or chemistry or... God.
He's going to get a great
know what
deal
the
on
climate
cloud
is,
ships.
actually.
He's not even fucking trying, man. He's not even fucking trying.
Oh, God. And this thing is like it's this flowering of imagination that all of a sudden takes place when you have to like confront the crisis of the system, right? These just about pulling out cloud ships and seawater, whatever.
This cloud shit is funny to me.
Days. Yeah.
Dude, a fucking Zeppelin full of chemicals that protect you is so much better than a room full of Black Lives Matter protests that hate you, hungry as fuck.
Yeah. He's just like crossing out the H.G. Wells on the front of H.G. Wells books and writing Steven Pinker on them and writing like a manifesto for stopping climate change.
Okay, I wanna bust through a few more of these because there are some other real sort of bejangles here.
Busting over Steven Pinker.
The Age of Reason, this is on war. The Age of Reason and Enlightenment brought denunciations of war from Pascal, Swift, Voltaire, and others. But it was only after World War II that the pacifying forces identified by Immanuel Kant were systematically put into place. War is illegal now, according to the UN. When military interventions have been launched, they have been rationalized as regrettable but necessary measures to prevent greater violence. But it wasn't so long ago that war was actually considered worthy and manly.
You know, literally, like, less than 10 years after World War II, there was a absolutely brutal, insanely costly, stupid war. Like, we just didn't even take a decade. Just didn't even... Yeah. Oh my god!
While he was writing this, we're still in a bunch of different conflict theaters around the world. Afghanistan's still like a state we made fail. You know, we're still like, bombing a Syrian airfield that no one's in because, like, some NatSec guy's wife won't fuck him or whatever. Like, it's illegal. I didn't know there was no war. We should just tell, like, everyone just getting, like, vaporized in Yemen or whatever. Like, actually, this isn't happening. It's illegal.
Getting vaporized so they can be blown into the atmosphere and stop climate change.
God damn.
Steven Pinker's just like, yo, World War II was bad, but without World War II, we wouldn't have got Band of Brothers, and that shit was dope.
That's all he's an all my losses was lessons guy.
Better argument. That's literally a better argument than what he's done. He's just
like he's J.K. Rowling in World War II.
I'm coming around to this because it's like Steven Pinker has such contempt for the people that read this. It's so clear now. He just has complete contempt for how little he's just like, oh yeah, the world's worst. Well, we had the fucking Hallmark Channel, 50 years ago, and then Bill Gates is like, oh my god. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude, war's illegal? This is genius.
Oh my god, you have the biggest
Cloud
brain.
Ships, you say?
Damn,
Bill Gates read Cloud Ships. He was like, this is my favorite book of my whole life.
Yeah.
Oh my god. This is just Steve, you've pulled out the greatest grift of all time. You're a fucking god, dude.
Absolutely. Steve, like we need a Marvel movie about where Steven Pinker is Doctor Strange instead of having magic.
Whoa.
He just has graphs that make billionaires give you money.
People telling their kids, hey, don't go near that Doctor Strange's house. Don't let him take you on his private plane. He got that name for a reason.
Okay.
He's gonna blow you into the atmosphere, if you know what I'm saying.
So here's the thing. This is actually even dumber. This next one on racism and the decline of racism is even dumber than everything else I've read so far. Pinker decides to use search terms to measure a decline in racism, calling them a, quote, digital truth serum, suggesting that in the privacy of their keyboards and screens, people query Google with every curiosity, anxiety, and guilty pleasure you can imagine, together with many you can't imagine.
You think this is
entering into Google like, what's never seen a Whopper a day ago? Like, please.
It's not even Google. It's Pornhub search results. As the interracial porn consumption goes up, racism goes down. Y-axis.
Step parents explain to disobedient daughter the difference between the racists and their brain pans.
Well, like, I know what Pinker uses as evidence here, and literally the Pornhub thing would be a better argument than what he goes with. Like, inarguably.
Steven Pinker is the court intellectual of the Pornhub company. Okay, so he says, let's use then to track recent trends in racism, private sexism, and homophobia, search terms. Like well into my adolescence, jokes featuring dumb Poles, ditzy dames, and lisping, limp-wristed homosexuals were common in network television and newspaper comics. Today they are taboo.
Well, I mean, his book features a lot of dumb Poles, in my opinion.
The numbers we looked at when we searched for, Stephen just goes ahead and uses the word here, N-word jokes, or in quotes, fag jokes, are declining. Someone who searches for that word is as likely to search for topics that appeal to senior citizens, such as Social Security and Frank Sinatra.
To be fair, I bet Frank Sinatra said the N-word a lot.
I do love just the idea of like an old person whose homepage is a Google search for Frank Sinatra.
Also, again, Steven Pinker's looking at Black Lives Matter and being like, no, racism is actually better in America. People aren't searching for N-word jokes anymore, but he
People
just says
know them
the
off
word.
by heart.
He's like at the Freddie Gray protest. No, look!
Look at
There's a
numbers.
35% decline in Polish jokes.
Right, and also it also betrays that this is a guy who just doesn't understand how Google works. Like, it's such a bizarre thing to search, like so weirdly specific.
It's like every morning at Clint Eastwood's house.
And
Just
like-
Googling Frank Sinatra and slurs.
Waking up and Googling the N-word. Oh my God, Steven. This is like, I love how like Bill Gates, who like, and probably like just untold amounts of Google executives, right? They're like, they read this, right? And they're like, they know how the internet works. And they read this part and they're like, you got it, dude. You the man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No
huge.
one's searching for N-word jokes anymore.
Whoa.
But that's
When I was Googling the N-word every morning, I didn't realize I was part of the problem.
I just pictured like a Krassenstein
like,
thing of like where you Google it in order to feel bad about it.
I also like that he's putting Googling Frank Sinatra now into like morally questionable territory. Like, should you be doing it? Like, it's not technically wrong, but are you siding with them?
I think
also
I think
guys never
if
heard
you
of-
Google Frank Sinatra, Google just counts it as his search for the N-word, which not incorrect, honestly.
Did you mean?
Yeah. Did you mean why is a Dominican nurse taking my watch? Yes, I did actually.
That's the other thing. It's like, this is also the opinion of someone who's never heard of the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah.
Who has never, who's like, it's like, who doesn't know that like people are getting like pushed Stephen Molyneux stuff where he's like, actually white people are discriminated, whatever. He's never heard of this. He's like, nope, the internet's just a waiter and you just ask it for stuff and it gives it to you. And that's how it is. And no one's asking for N-word jokes anymore, so racism is gone.
He thinks the process is like, all right, I'm thinking about getting into racism. Let me just type in some of the most potent slurs. Find some other people using them, see if I can pick up some tips from them.
Just
No
a
one's an
social
alcoholic anymore.
anxiety
Google search for
racist.
vodka have gone down.
Yeah.
He's a social racist.
Oh my God.
He's only a racist on the high holidays.
Only after a couple of beers.
This guy is sort of a G. This is like Chris Morris level. Like this is like if Chris Morris wrote like a, sort of fucking neoliberal thinker character, it would be this guy.
This is absolutely.
Oh, and Jeffrey Epstein's plane is the space capsule
Yes!
where they launched a pedophile into space with an 8-year-old boy.
Yes, 100,000%. Oh
Jeffrey
my
Epstein,
God.
SpaceX.
Oh my God.
Space XXX.
Sad by SpaceX Tentacion. All right, so I want to run through another couple quickly because they're so perfect, and then I think it's time for us to hang up our podcast hats. On Islam.
Oh, good.
Oh boy, strap in everybody.
All right, let's go, dude.
Let's fucking go. No discussion of global progress can ignore the Islamic world, which, okay, fine so far, but it takes a turn, which by a number of objective measures appears to be sitting out the progress enjoyed by the rest.
Googling much more N-word jokes.
Islam's just a bit hungover. It's just sitting at, you know what, like, guys, I'm just going to sit here and drink this aloe vera juice. You guys carry on.
Is Islam sitting on the sideline? Y'all are so fucking lucky I'm on parole.
This is almost like that's almost right, Felix. All the wars raging in 2016 took place in Muslim-majority countries or involved Islamist
Wow,
groups.
what a crazy
and those groups are
coincidence.
responsible for the vast majority of terrorist attacks.
I love that like someone's house gets burgled and then they're like, are you sure you're not in league with the burglars? Because 100% of the burglaries on this street took place in your house.
Absolutely. It's like this is actually true. Like the crazy David Vance conspiracy theorists who think that Theresa May is a secret Muslim who's trying to Islamize the West or
That
whatever.
is true, though.
There are people who think that.
She is the
Obviously.
secret imam.
Yes.
So they think that she's supplying Saudi Arabia weapons, and
Zakat means
actually a
zakat.
Muslim war. And like he's asked, can the Islamic world have an enlightenment? Can there be a reform Islam, liberal Islam, or a humanistic Islam, a separation of mosque and state?
Not until we have Islamic 1984.
You know the racist Saul Bellow quote about who the Tolstoy of the Zulus is? What's this guy's going, who's the Muslims' John Locke? I'm like, they still fucking read him.
Yeah, who's the Muslim John Cena?
It's John Cena once I've converted him in the comments section on his Facebook page.
You can't see me, I'm dressed modestly.
No, dude, you can't see me, I'm the hidden imam.
This is a credo I've adopted from the brave men and women of Al-Shabaab.
The infidels have been compromised to a permanent end.
I am pleased to announce that Osama bin Laden has been compromised to a permanent end and is now an eternal martyr.
Compromised to a permanent end is the greatest sentence ever uttered in the West.
It's the natural evolution of like the whole thing where like when Americans try and sound more formal, they just say things that no one ever actually says, like saying at this time instead of now and stuff like that. And then that is just like the high priest of all of that, which is compromised to a permanent end instead of killed.
It's cop language. Like if you...
Yeah, exactly.
American cops, like especially suburban cops are kind of the most psycho cops because they're just waiting to see like any person of color so they can be like, we have an MS-13 style attack in our bungalow community. But like when they, as someone who, as a shitty 16-year-old was, in friends' cars pulled over many times by suburban cops and just never even handcuffed, the main thing they would do is like, can we ascertain in this scenario that we can perpendicularize a marijuana-style smoking instrument device? that type
They're
of thing.
Speaking Mandarin. They're speaking STEM language.
Yeah.
Cops actually speak binary. And when you're really good, you don't even have to decode it. You just understand the numbers.
So I'm going to run through another couple here. On the future, some economists fear that low rates of growth are the new normal. No one really knows why productivity growth slacked off in the 70s or how to bring it back up. One explanation is that America has lost its mojo. Workers in depressed regions no longer pick up and move to vibrant ones, but instead just collect disability and drop out of the labor force. Plus, investors and governments no longer back moonshots. As entrepreneur Peter Thiel lamented, we wanted flying cars, instead we got 140 characters.
America has to go back in time to retrieve its mojo from Fat Bastard.
Steven Pinker admits that the growth has been slow and doesn't really know why it is. He says workers have lost their mojo, whatever that means. And he says technology-driven productivity growth has a way of sneaking up on the world without realizing it. People take a long time to figure out how to put technologies to best use, and industries need time to retool their plants and practices around them. So here are some of Steven Pinker's ideas. Fourth-generation nuclear power in the form of small modular reactors in every home. Sensible. Got it.
That sounds really safe.
Yeah.
Much safer than solar panels.
I like where you're going, Steve.
A battery the size of a Walmart powering a whole city.
This is
I was
just
going to say a
Fallout
battery
shit.
the size of a walnut, which would have actually been impressive. Like, Walmarts are very big.
In the medical realm, a lab on a chip could perform a liquid biopsy and detect any number of hundreds of diseases from a drop of blood or saliva.
Wait, also, what is powering the battery? Like, he does realize that batteries aren't just like a fucking source of energy.
He probably does. This is summarized. But I noted the medical realm one, he's just invented Theranos. He said Theranos could come save us.
He's like an irredentist for it. He's like the last holdout. He's like still
he's
fighting in the
guy
70s.
stuck on an island. He just doesn't realize it was a huge scam.
She just missed that week, and
he's a complete. This just shows you how much of a dunce he is because this has been disproven before the book was written.
A Japanese guy on an island clutching a bayonet and Googling Frank Sinatra. And saying to himself, this is the enemy.
Individualized education can be provided over the web to children in developing countries by volunteers, called the Granny Cloud, another Pornhub search term.
Steven Pinker, don't worry, I'll educate all these kids.
and to learners everywhere by artificially intelligent tutors.
cool.
Oh my
So
god.
replacing
So like they're just Stephen like so his plan is just to sprout 100,000 Stefan Molyneux who like educate all the children. He is the shittiest brain of all time.
Absolutely.
Just the worst. Just the fuck. You really just hate to see it. You really just hate to hear these ideas and think about what they look like and then realize that trying to process the practical application of Steven Pinker's ideas it's the equivalent of salting a field to your synopsis. It's like you're just irreparably
Salting
dumber.
the atmosphere.
Yeah, there's a cloud chip running around your brain and it's like, well, you're never going to use that neural pathway again. It's just completely ruined because you thought about, individual like internet homeschool classes taught from cloud chips that are spraying salt mist like a little spray bottle you spray at a cat into the atmosphere to prevent global warming. Because you think Keemstar is going to be like a dean of an internet school.
Here's his fourth one. The rise of the techno-philanthropists, who instead of
off.
just writing checks for the naming rights to concert halls, apply their ingenuity, connections, and demand for results to the solution to global problems.
Okay. So the guy who made TikTok is going to fix drought. You're right, Steve. Thank you. Just another fucking humdinger of an idea from the brain god himself, Mr.
This Snapchat guy
Infinite
spending all his
IQ.
billions on preventing littering.
Oh my god.
I, for one, am very excited to be able to call a cloud chip from my phone and have it take me anywhere.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give you guys some insight. I was like ready to work out a little bit. I just can't do it now, man. I got to wait till tomorrow. This really took a lot out of me.
I'm so
Fuck.
sorry. I can't wait
It's
to see you
crippling.
guys on stream later, and you're just getting your shit killed all the time. Be like, sorry guys, I
Dude,
only
I'm
slept for 12
playing
hours.
Halo.
I heard Steven
We're
Pinker.
playing Halo tonight. I'm going to get fucking owned. My
Everyone's
reflexes
gonna
have
come
been
up behind you and
bogged
one-hit
down. Yeah. Oh my god.
I've decided this is the coup de grace. This is the stupidest possible thing. And this is, I think, where this actually most meshes with Chapo territory. This is Steven Pinker on discourse and discourse in general. Indeed, in one realm after another, we are seeing the conquest of dogma by the armies of reason. Newspapers are supplementing shoe leather and punditry with statisticians and data journalists like James Ball. In New York, and increasingly in other cities, violent crime has been reduced with real-time data crunching system called CompStat. Volunteering and charitable giving are being scrutinized. The blogosphere has spawned the rationality community.
Cloud chips cruising the blogosphere, sprinkling it with dangerous ideas.
The rationality. Yeah, I got jumped into the rationality community. I had to name 5 Enlightenment thinkers while they hit me with a feather duster.
Jesus.
I'm a rational boy level 5.
He's like a character that was cut from Trainspotting.
No,
He's
that's
constantly,
my-
what if your dog was a nuclear power station? Do you ever think about that?
He's the gaming clan rationality community that is just absolutely tearing up the Fortnite charts. That's what
Oh
he's
my
doing.
god. This is just I think there was a point in writing this book, like the first part of it, he's like, I need to use empirical evidence to back up my claims. And then like after about like maybe 60 pages of that, he's like, you know what, who cares? And he's like, now you can go viral for facts. And
Hey guys,
and still
let's make
people
reason go
still
viral. That's
people
him.
still eat it up. People are still like, damn, dude, Steven, you're so good at thinking.
Yeah.
Just
Say what you will about HIV, it was a fact.
if you did enhanced interrogation on Steven Pinker, he would admit he just gave up while writing this. He just wasn't even fucking trying at all. Literally, his argument towards the end is like that you can like I fucking love science goes viral. Oh my god!
The great
God.
becoming of this book is the transformation from Facebook at the beginning into Imgur at the end.
Yeah.
It charts the line of great thinkers from Voltaire all the way through to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
To Ron Swanson. Here's the bit that's going to kill all of us. Can we imagine a day in which the most famous columnists and talking heads have no political orientation, but try to work out defensible conclusions on an issue-by-issue basis, in which people will answer a question like, does gun control reduce crime, with, wait, let me look up the latest meta-analysis?
Well, I remember what the talking head said about this, which was, psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah.
His like vision of a perfect world includes a non-ideological op-ed board.
Yeah.
I'm about to
Delicious.
spike my fucking mic through my monitor. I'm about to just fucking throw straight right at my monitor like Summit 1G. I am. Whew.
Yeah, that's
He
that's
doesn't
how
even.
we're
He
gonna
doesn't
get here,
even
folks.
fucking. He has such contempt for the people that read this.
It's like,
He just
I don't
does
know,
it. It's
how are we gonna
awesome,
fix global warming?
actually.
I don't know. Cloud ships. What can we do now? I don't know. Non-ideological op-ed board.
Yeah, Steven Pinker is. He's also ruining my evening because this recording is making me late for a dinner party at my house, and without my supervision, one of the guests has put on Disney songs apparently, so I've got to go and deal with that.
All right, dude, you have to put on Dummy Boy. You got to get behind. You got. This is dinner parties now for the Free 6ix9ine movement.
Absolutely.
Google searches
put on something-
for Free 6ix9ine have gone up.
You got to go in there and put on Gotti, the dumbest song about the dumbest guy in history.
Putting on
Just- it's-
Frank Sinatra's song addressed to Riley Reid.
No, it's that's awesome. That's the thing. We're gonna fix it. Cloud ships, neutral op-ed borbs. We got it, guys. We fucking solved it.
Whoa.
I would love to see Steven Pinker go on like the Keemstar, Adam 22, FaZe Banks, Lil Xan podcast. He would be so at home. Like he just has the same level of contempt.
Everyone on the left and right is cloud chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually his argument.
He's not clout chasing. He's cloud chasing.
Okay.
Man,
Yeah.
I was on this plane headed to international waters, and I was like, this shit is so not me.
Oh
The
boy.
thing is, I got an international waters loyalty card. The great thing is they have them all over the world.
Okay. Oh boy. I think we're all gonna die if we don't go soon.
Yeah.
I feel like I just feel like I drink like a liter of salt water. That's how it feels.
Ready to piss it into the upper atmosphere and stop global warming.
Exactly. And yeah.
You guys talk sometimes about how watching books and movies makes you feel. How reading this book made me feel was like, you know when you close your eyes and just press really hard and then you're just sort of seeing stars? It's like, it was that. Reading this book was like that.
Well, as Bill Gates said of this book made me feel like a natural woman.
This is Bill Gates' best book ever written.
Yeah. The big genius billionaire who has more resources
Yeah.
than like only 2 people are richer than him. This is his favorite book.
Did Bill Gates like just replace his brain with like the AI behind Clippy?
It looks like you're trying to write a comment for a book sleeve.
I guess this is sort of like capitalist thinking, right? But I thought that Bill Gates would be like a very, if not like completely amoral, shitty guy, like a smart guy. But no, I was totally wrong. He read this and was impressed.
Yeah,
He was literally
absolutely.
impressed by this. He thought this was good.
Just remember back to the very beginning. This is someone who thinks that A-B reasoning was invented in the 1750s. Oh boy.
The only way
Okay.
people could think before was via Socratic elenchus. You had to, whenever you were trying to solve any kind of problem, you had to rely on bumping into a crotchety old man on the street who would ask you like impertinent questions until you realized the correct course of action.
All right, we're gonna go drink a whole lot of hemlock. I think. Milo, you got a dinner party to save. Felix, you gotta go lose at Halo.
I'm
Alex,
I'm
you
gonna
gotta go-
clean up my apartment to try to reconnect some brain synapses. Honestly,
Oh, you
I
gotta go
think
do
if I
it.
swung a kettlebell, I would just fucking beam myself. Like my body would force me to kill myself with it. It would just beam into my forehead and crater it.
I'm gonna do the out matter now. I'm gonna say thank you to Felix and Alice for hopping on and subjecting yourself to this.
Oh, thank
We
you,
just
guys.
love to see it.
You love to see it.
We love to see it.
It's been a pleasure.
We
in a way.
we have a Patreon. We actually the first leftist podcast to invent having a Patreon.
Yeah, they
Felix,
didn't exist before 1750.
you said you're gonna start a podcast called Chapo Trap House. You might want to take this idea.
Ooh.
You can subscribe. You can get a second episode every week for $5 a month.
Dude, that's a
Usual
good ass
model.
idea.
Yo, don't worry. Just credit us.
Thank God we bumped into that old man in the street.
And also you can commodify your dissent with a t-shirt from Lil Comrade. Maybe you can get one of Steven Pinker's favorite graphs on it. I'm sure Edie would love to screen print that for you.
You can also buy our merch on Teespring.
Oh yeah, we have
other
a mug.
merch.
We
Yeah,
have
you can buy
more
a soup
merch.
mug from
We have
us.
more merch for some fucking reason. We're gonna do a live show at some point in February, I think, if
Yeah.
Milo can book it.
Yeah.
Just book the venue. And please book the venue. This is the only way it works. This is my new form of interaction with other people. It's podcast callouts. And finally, thank you to Ginseng for our theme song. Here we go. You can find it on Spotify. It's a very good tune.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Also, there's a show on the 16th of January. Smoke Comedy is back. I'm hosting it, and our headliner is going to be Ahir Shah. It's going to be a very good show.
many three-peat, I think, on the show.
Yeah,
twice or three-peat.
Yeah, double Edinburgh Comedy Award nominee Ahir Shah. It's going to be dope.
It's
It's on the 16th January, 8 o'clock. You can get tickets on Eventbrite. They're free, but you should get a ticket because it'll probably sell out.
Yeah, we'll link that in the description.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on. And just after listening to this, try not, to jump off a roof installing a solar panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See ya.